Hello and
Bingo.
welcome to another exciting episode of Have a Strong Weekend. I'm your co host, Josh,
I'm your co-host Andrew.
and Andrew has coffee, and so do I.
Mm. But do you have Superman coffee? Do you have super coffee?
Mm. No, mine just says coffee break. Yeah. Yes, thank you for joining us again. We have a really great show in our quest to evaluate some, I would say, sort of somewhat forgotten shows that we're finding here. And of course, we're following our uh, alphabet organizational scheme. We're on C now. And today, a forgotten, I guess you would call it a gem. I mean, it kind of is just because it's been so forgotten, would be, it's called Chico and the Man. Chico and the Man. I'm sure some people who are clicking in have either heard of it, heard about Freddie Prinze, or of course, his more well-known son, Freddie Prinze Jr. So we'll talk about a particular episode and the guy. What an interesting time in sitcom history, don't you think?
Yeah, I guess so. I feel like when we jump into this is full of pop culture references, both, especially the people. Like if you had told me what show had an opening by Jose Feliciano, stars Jack Albertson, and also stars Scatman Crothers, I would not have. I don't think I ever would have guessed that it was this show. That's
Yeah.
how little that's how unfamiliar I am with Chico and the Man. I don't know about you.
Now I'm more familiar with it. I watched. It's been a very long time, but I at some point years ago I was into comedians, and eventually you come upon Freddie Prinze just because I mean he was so young. I mean he looks older, but he's like
Hmm
21 there or something.
Everybody looks so much older in the back then.
Yeah, he's so young, and then that time period of shows is interesting because there are so many shows that really opened up the door for minorities at this time. I don't know if you noticed. There's this Chico and the Man, more popular and more lasting impact series, Sanford and Son, even like Different Strokes. Two black kids go to live with like rich white man. Um, you have you have All in the Family, which was about a white family, but it was very much about this time. There was just so many shows at that time that were really focusing on the minority experience in like a sitcom setting, like which I guess at that time, we're talking about all these shows span a number of years, but where do you think? I think that comes from like the aftermath of like the Vietnam War, right?
That's what I was going to say. A
Yeah.
lot of these shows make a lot of references to it, and this show does especially. But also, yeah, like you were saying, All in the Family, a lot of Vietnam vets and stuff. So like, yeah, you have a lot of that, and the films mirror that too, because a lot of the films around this time kind of have that sort of grittier tone, darker tone. A lot of them
Yeah,
focus
it's usually
on the
like
after effects
about
of the war.
inner city experiences,
Yeah.
kind of thing, which I really really always liked, even when I didn't understand why I was seeing it. But I've always felt an affection for that sort of embracing of that. And
Even
I guess
something like Sesame Street is based on the inner
totally,
city. It's
totally,
like
yeah.
it's
All the
set
sets look like it's an
it's
inner
set
city
well, it's set in the inner city. Yeah, it's set in a
set in the inner
neighborhood.
city.
It's set in a neighborhood like supposed to be a very urban mixed cultures type setting. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, which I really like, and I think um, now with inclusion and diversity and all those things that we are focused on now, I guess there's still a an awareness of that. But this time was just, I think, that first period where we really got to experience that whole thing. Even
Yeah, the
though,
opening.
yes, it's like in the context of like a sitcom, so it makes it a little bit kooky, but
The opening theme is by Jose Feliciano. Like
yeah,
that,
yeah,
I feel like 4 or 5 years before this, you wouldn't have been able to do that probably.
yeah, I agree. I think it just, with obviously we had the civil rights, activism, and then going into Vietnam, there's just, I think, much more an awareness of minorities, and then that
This,
grew out of that.
yeah, this show premiered in 1974, so it premiered basically the year that the Vietnam War basically ended, and it also, I think, premiered the year that Nixon resigned. So
Yeah,
definitely of that era. And it's weird because there will be jokes in the show that reference the Vietnam War, and you'll hear kind of like this woo from the audience, or from the crowd,
yeah,
from the live studio
real
audience.
pumped.
Yeah, like that was definitely something that that was just you could if you wanted to get a woo, all you had to do was make a joke about Nixon or the Vietnam War, and you were going to get a reaction because everybody, different political parties probably, but everybody kind of agreed on the same thing.
That's funny. Yeah, this show has, I would say, it has a good audience. And do you know what I mean when I say that? Like certain shows, like like certain jokes in the show, I wouldn't say really made me laugh. Certainly, I really enjoy the show, but then you might get like a cheer from the audience.
Yeah,
Like,
you've said that.
woo!
You've
You
said
know.
that before. I think the audience is a reflection of the show itself. I think the show makes the audience good or bad.
Yeah, I think so, but I don't know why. I just I feel like sometimes there's an audience that seems really pumped to be there, and we've all watched sitcoms where it's like, is there an audience? Like they're not laughing. It's real embarrassing. like, oh man, that must hurt for that must really hurt for an actor. If I mean, yeah, I think you're focused on your character when you're performing in front of a live audience, but when you're not getting laughs, like, and that's like your face is real red from embarrassment. Wow, wow.
That probably doesn't happen anymore. I think now, like if there's a
No,
dull moment in a live studio audience, I think that they probably add artificial laughs to cover it up.
yeah, maybe they
I
did
bet
then. I mean, I'm
there
sure,
are,
but
yeah. I doubt there are I bet there are very rarely actual dead spaces because if the crowd isn't laughing, if the studio audience isn't laughing, then how are we at home knowing to know to laugh?
yeah, I know. It signals us laugh here. I will. Yeah, yeah.
You want to hear the
So,
opening theme?
yeah, I do. I
It's
like it.
good. It's good. Let's see.
One, two, 1, 2, 3, and.
Jack Albertson. I never knew he was in this show. Did you know
Yeah,
that?
he
I guess
gets
you knew
top
that,
billing.
but yeah, I
It's ironic because the man got top billing too.
yeah. Well, the man got the highest billing, and then Chico got the second billing. But Chico was unknown. I mean, Freddie Prinze was a stand-up
Yeah,
comedian, but it wasn't like
to
Freddie
be
Prinze
fair,
was. Yeah, it wasn't like Freddie
yeah,
Prinze was in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
yeah. I think he was known in comedy circles, but not.
Right. He was a breakout star, which I mean, you could, every couple of years, there's another stand-up comedian that gets a show and becomes a breakout star. I mean, that's sort of that's the model that
Yeah,
they've gone to that well time and time again, and it always seems to work.
yeah. I really like Freddie Prinze in this show. He's not the greatest actor as you some. I mean, I know it's a sitcom, so a lot of what you say can fly under the radar, like more theatrical. You're basically filming a play, right? Let's face
Hmm.
it. But sometimes he would say a line in the show, and it sounded like, "Hey Ed, what are you doing?" like that kind of thing. Whereas
Uh-huh.
like, yeah, you can tell he's not really an actor. You know, he just like probably got a acting coach, and you know they were like shoved him out there.
Well,
Um,
I mean, I thought he was really good. I thought
I
he
really
was,
like him. No, he's very likable. Yeah,
yeah, like I thought he felt very natural, and I
yes,
thought that he actually did a pretty good job of considering he had no acting experience. He did a really good job, and I think he, I mean, it's a stage, so it's natural.
yeah,
It's a natural
yeah,
home for him, and I think he plays to the crowd really well. It's these
yeah,
shows, these live studio audience shows are really interesting to me because the you can really tell it's a live studio audience because the person that's talking is almost talking to they're not talking to the camera, or they're not talking even to their character,
yeah,
the whoever they're having a scene with. They're almost talking to the audience, and it's really funny to watch them almost sort of look out into they're almost like they're looking out into the audience,
yeah,
and like they're playing to the audience, not so much the camera. Like it's a TV show, but they're almost playing to the audience. I found that really funny,
yeah. Very much like a live play,
like a live
basically,
play. Exactly. Do you want to watch
and
a
you can
scene
really
from it?
feel it. Yeah,
Let me
yeah.
see if I can. Let me see if I've got one here. See if I
He
can
was.
find
Can
it.
I just say, Freddie Prinze? I can't
Yeah.
believe how young he was. I mean, he in '74. He was born June 22nd, 1954. So he was just. He might have been just over
Who's a naughty
21,
boy
just over 20.
Just over 20. Yeah, so he was
Yeah,
probably
so young.
20, 22, 21? No, 20. Right, 20. Yeah. So,
20. Yeah.
all
I
right.
need to
So
turn the volume down on it.
what's that?
I need to turn the volume down on
Yeah, I'm
it.
going to turn it down. All right. So
Okay.
this is the opening scene of the show, and you hear the audience applaud as the characters come on the screen, which I thought was really funny. It felt very
I
old.
like that old school thing where it
Yeah.
just happy to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Hey, good morning there.
How's business?
Picking up.
Louis, for 15 years, you've been giving me the same answer.
And for 15 years, you've been asking me the same question.
I'll tell you what, Louis. If you'll change the answer, I'll change the question. How's that?
That's a deal.
Good. How's Pickens?
I'm glad you asked me that, Ed, because last week was a Lulu. I found a gold watch, 2 diamond rings, and a pawn ticket for a yacht.
Yeah? You gonna try to redeem the pawn ticket?
Of course not. What I need with 2 yachts.
I actually laughed out loud at that part. I and so the reason why I pulled that clip is because it felt like they were doing a routine in a way. A lot of this show feels like a comedy routine. Doesn't
Yeah.
feel quite so sitcom-y. It feels like it's 2 comedians on stage doing Dean and Martin, or doing Abbott and
Yeah.
Costello, or doing whatever other comedy duo you want to choose
Yeah.
from. And maybe a lot of other shows from that time do the same thing, but I found that interesting.
Yeah, the show itself, this is basically from Freddie Prinze, right? Like that his stand-up
Did he create the
routine.
show? So he didn't create it, but
I
it
think
was basically based on his stand-up.
basically him and his stories, as you can imagine, just they were always about growing up in. I think he grew up in the Bronx. I think that's right, and his experiences with the landlord. Like one of his bigger jokes, he says it in the show, but he had a catchphrase, and it was "It's not my job, man." Like that was his catchphrase. And that catch, he says it in the show, not in reference to a landlord, but the joke was, he would talk about how like every problem they had in their apartment, the superintendent would be like, "It's not my job, man. like it's cold in here. It's not my job, man. like you don't want to fix anything." Yeah, so that was his comedy routine, and then that kind of expanded into this story. I don't know if like Jack Albertson's character is a real thing in his stand-up, because I'd love to now. I want to go back and watch old stand-up clips of Freddie Prinze, because it's pretty funny. I mean, he had real talent
Yeah, I've seen some
for
of his
such a young
stand up.
age.
Yeah, I've seen some of his stand up like in like on documentaries, about the stand up comedy in general. So I've
Yeah,
seen some of his stand up in just little very brief clips, but yeah,
yeah.
I've
For the
never seen it.
audience's sake, meaning our audience,
Uh huh.
let me just research real quick if what stand-up things they can go see by Freddie Prinze, like just
Oh
outside of the
yeah,
show.
for sure, for sure.
Just on YouTube, there's got to be at least some kind of comedy.
While you're doing
There's
that,
definitely, oh yeah,
I'll give just a quick synopsis of this particular episode. We don't have to go beat by beat, but the show is this particular episode is interesting because it pulls on that Vietnam War angle. It's about Ed, who is just for people who don't really know what the show is about. The show is about this guy Ed Brown, who's he's an owner of a rundown garage. Freddie Prinze comes in looking for a job, and Ed turns him away, and so Freddie goes and lives in a van. I think he goes and lives in his van outside of his garage, and then eventually Ed gives him a job, and they become friends. But it uses it kind of does the all in the family thing. It forces these two guys into a situation. Ed, of course, coming from the old school way of thinking, and then Freddie Prinze being sort of forcing Ed to be more sympathetic to different cultures and
yeah.
that kind of thing. And so they become friends after a while, but but Ed still continues to be cantankerous at times. But this particular episode is Ed gets a letter from his army buddies. They're doing a 25-year reunion from of their World War II unit, and what happens is Ed, of course, doesn't want to go at first, but Freddie Prinze and Chico and others on the show eventually talk him into it, and so he's of course happy he does it, and it turns out to be so then they have a little reunion, and then the show ends. But it's pretty good.
Yeah,
It's
he
I
really
really
does
enjoyed it.
not go.
Oh, he doesn't go. That's right. He doesn't go. But he meets his
He meets
he
his
meets
buddy.
his
One of his buddies comes by the garage, and
that's
they
right.
chat, and Ed realizes that all of the other members of his unit are more successful, so he freaks
That's
out
right.
and just basically by the end of the show just walks off the
Yeah,
set, but doesn't he's not going to the reunion. So I
that's
thought that
right.
was weird. I was like, oh, they didn't
A
even really
very
wrap it up in a
70s
nice neat
ending.
package. Yeah,
A
a
very
dapper
70s
ending,
ending.
very 70s. Yeah, I think these shows worked a lot too. You mentioned the old cantankerous Ed, and then the young Puerto Rican Freddie Prinze thrown together. A lot of these shows worked in this time period, All in the Family, because those kinds of stuff, because people felt like they knew a lot of these characters, right? The
Hmm.
old everybody had an Ed or an Archie Bunker. My mom would say it. My mom would be like, "Yeah, everybody knew someone like Archie Bunker." Kind of
Yeah,
like curmudgeon,
yeah,
cantankerous,
yeah.
old guy with these old school views. And then you've got the young that's way more open and, want to be loving and more aware of social issues and stuff like that. Name.
Yeah, I was looking at the 88 episodes of this show, but it was interesting. I think Freddie Prinze died sometime during season 3, towards the end of season 3. Did you see how they decided to handle his initial death? Well,
I
I'll
didn't
tell
even
you.
research it.
Well, I'll
Thank
tell
you.
you. Hmm.
I love it.
He died, I think, 3 episodes before, like three episodes left before the end of season 3. So what they did on the show to explain it is Ed basically makes a reference to him going to Mexico to visit his family, and that he's not there anymore. And then in the next season, they do the thing that every show does when it's on its way down. A younger kid joins the group, and he's like a 12-year-old. I think he's another Mexican American uh, character on the show, and a couple times Ed accidentally calls him Chico, and the joke is that he just calls everybody who's of Latino American origin just to call them Chico, which is, you just can't do that. And so
Yeah, some things did not
not age well, man.
age
So
well.
they and then about halfway through the season, Ed has like a little moment with the child and tells him that Chico's never coming back, that something happened to him, he died or something like that. So that's how they explain it. And then after that, the show pretty much I think it was picked up maybe for a fifth season, or they were going to continue it, but then I think it temporarily went on hiatus, and then it just never really recovered. But it was a top 10 show. I think its first season, I think it was top 30, maybe its second season. And then I think it was starting to kind of tail off by the third season. But once Freddie Prinze left, it definitely took a nosedive. Never really was the same. We got to talk about Jack Albertson a little bit.
Yeah, Mr. What's his character name in Willy Wonka? Is it Grandpa Joe? Yeah,
I had no idea
that's
he
what
was
people
on
really
this
know
show.
him from.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
If you look at his IMDb and you look at the four things, it's Willy Wonka, this show obviously, and I can't remember the other two. But yeah, I mean, but I had no idea he was on this show.
Yeah. My impression of him, always that actor is, look over there, Charlie. Because that's what most people know him from, is that show. But yeah, I remember him. So we were talking about actors on a past show, like they get this like thing of like 3 to 5 years, maybe 7 years of like they're working. And some actors like Jack Albertson, he was older. They don't, like, all these years he's probably been just like a character actor, and suddenly he's really close to, he's got top billing in this show, right? So
I'm guessing he has top billing on this show based on Willy Wonka, I guess. I don't know if he had some other big film in between.
There's got to be a story behind that, because I'm sure they would want to think about, do we give Freddie Prinze top billing being young and sort of fresh, or do we give this guy who's been around a long time finally his due? They give him his due.
Well, nobody in Hollywood gives you your due. You've got to earn it.
I guess
Hollywood doesn't work that way. Hollywood doesn't work like they do in The Simpsons, when they're like, you always have a home here. That's not how Hollywood works.
Jack,
but I think Willy Wonka was 3 years before this show, 71. So he was probably still, I mean, that movie probably is what launched him onto this show. I'm looking at his IMDb. The other thing that he was in that I totally forgot about is he was the voice of the old man from Fox and the Hound. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That cartoon. It was a cartoon film.
And he died just a few years after this show.
Yeah.
81.
So
he didn't last much longer either, man.
Fox and the Hound was 81. So, I mean, it was probably filmed in 80. So he probably, that was, I think he played Amos Slade. That was his last, I think that was his last role. And now that I'm thinking about it, what are you going to say?
I was going to say he's definitely a character actor for sure. He was on Gunsmoke,
Look at that.
Adventure, Bonanza. He's
Yeah.
He's been acting. He was on Night Gallery, which is Rod Serling's, Twilight Zone Jr.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
And Yeah, Willy Wonka was 71. Yeah, so this would have been fresh on people's mind. That would have been fresh on people's
Yeah, Willy Wonka.
minds.
Then
And his credits, he's got 182 acting credits. They go all the way back to 1938. He was a reporter in a movie called Next Time I Marry.
he made it to the age of 74, and he looks 74 on this show.
Yeah, he looks his age.
Yeah. Uh,
You know.
and it's funny, if anybody who's seen Fox and the Hound, I don't know why I didn't put the two together, because the animated character from Fox and the Hound looks like Jack Albertson.
Yeah.
So now it makes sense that that he would be.
Oh.
Uh,
Interesting.
but yeah, Chico and the Man, great show. Out of 10 polyester suits, how many do you give it?
I think for cultural reference, comedy, just enjoyment, entertainment, sheer and entertainment of it, I'm going to give it 7. 7 polyester
Seven?
suits. Solid 7.
Man, I should have gone first, because I think I was going to give it probably 7. Now it's going to look like I'm copying you.
You always copy me.
I know.
I'm a trendsetter.
You are.
Just look at me.
I I liked it. I thought it was really funny.
Yeah.
I thought it was very entertaining. I'll give it. I'll go along with that, and I'll give it 7. I'll give it 7
Yeah.
polyester suits out of 10.
Yeah, I think it deserves that. And it sadly is a little bit of a forgotten show. It definitely doesn't get its recognition, along with like All in the
It's-
Family, and
It's getting its recognition today.
that's
on
right.
On Have a Strong Weekend.
I'm hoping we
giving
have
it its
some
due.
viewers out there. Hello.
We're giving it its due. It's gonna
Yeah,
the
it's gonna
downloads are gonna
resurface.
just the downloads are gonna go crazy after people see this.
Awesome. I agree.
Will you have
All
anything else
right.
before we?
I think that was a nice, really fun trip down Freddie Prinze Lane.
Mhm.
And I'm looking forward to the next episode for sure. So I guess everybody, you can find us on our. Well, you could join our. Is it Josh and Drew Cocktails and Dreams page on Facebook?
That's it.
Yep.
That's it.
Instagram. YouTube, of course. And check us out. Send us some comments. We don't mind trolls.
No, we need them.
Just don't. You don't have to be so negative, but whatever. I mean,
We need to know everything that we're doing wrong.
yeah, please. All right, everybody. Have a strong weekend.
Have a strong
We
weekend.
will see you next time.